Today we're going to be looking at chapters 12 and 13. If you haven't noticed, people have been telling me that they can't leave comments. I guess I had something set up wrong, but I think I fixed it now, so you can able to leave comments. Again, this will be chapters 12 and 13 of Genesis. Please take some time to read the passage first, and then both chapters, and then we'll go in it. A lot of this is history of Abraham and his journey of where he went, and sets the stage for the call of Abram. I keep saying, I may say Abraham, but it's actually Abram at this point. At some point, he will actually change his name to Abraham. Well, God will actually change his name to Abraham. And he also changes Sarai's name to Sarah, which, again, we'll talk about that later in another chapter coming up. But again, take some time to read this, pause, and start it when you're ready. Now, this is chapter 12, verse 1. So let's begin. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from the country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in all your families on the earth shall be blessed." So God starts the first three verses, and he basically tells Abraham to go to the country that I will show you. He doesn't actually tell him what direction to go in. He just tells him to go to the country I will show you. So Abram, and he also tells Abram that he will be blessed. All of his family will be blessed. But he also says anybody who blesses Abram will be blessed as well. But if anybody who doesn't bless Abraham will be cursed. So this is a very important thing, and in fact, it follows into Israel's history. If you bless Israel, you will be blessed. If you will curse Israel, you will be cursed. Okay, so verse 4, it says, "So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And then Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother and son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people that had acquired in Haran. They set out to go to the land of Haran. When they came to the land of Canaan, is where not Haran they went to, Abram passed through the land and placed at Shechem to the oak of Moach at that time. The Canaanites were in the land, and the Lord appeared to Abram and said, 'To your offspring I will give you this land.' So he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him there. From there he moved to the hill country to the east of Bethel and pitched his tent. And Bethel was on the west side, and Ai on his east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram journeyed on, going towards the Negev." So basically, Abraham goes, as God says. He takes his wife, Sarai. He takes his son-in-law, Lot. Lot's wife comes with as well, plus all the possessions that he has gathered for 75 years, which is a lot of stuff, which we're going to learn about shortly. And Lot brings all of his possessions, and he has a lot. We're not sure how old Lot is. It doesn't say. But basically, they go and they head out. And they head out to this land that God will show them. But they end up in Canaan, where there's Canaanites. And then they eventually head out to Bethel, and eventually they're going to head to the Negev. And each time Abram stops somewhere, he builds an altar to the Lord and offers animal sacrifices to God in appreciation of, basically, I think, protecting them and leading his journey. Now, verse 10, it says, "Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, 'I know you are a beautiful woman in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, is this your wife? They will kill me, but they will let you live. So say you are my sister, that I may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake.' Then Abram entered Egypt, and the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful, and when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this you have done to me? Why did you tell me that she was your wife? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you say she was your sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, there is your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh gave them orders concerning them, and sent them away with his wife, all that they had. So basically, as they're traveling, Abram ends up in a city in Egypt, and he's worried that they're going to kill him so that the Pharaoh can take Sarai to be his wife, to be another Pharaoh's wife. And so Abram, who obviously did not trust in God fully, he did trust and have faith in God, but just like we, as human beings, we have our faith and trust in God, we still falter, and we still sin, and we still lie and do things that are inappropriate in God's sight. And this would be an example of one that Abram did. Abram lied to Pharaoh to protect himself, but most importantly, he was doubting God, that God would trust him. God told him that he would make him a great nation. When God promises something, God will fulfill it. Abram had no reason to fear that God would not spare him and his wife's lives, because God promised to make them a great nation. So the promise was there. Abram just didn't obey it and didn't believe it and follow it. He took it upon himself to do what he thought was right. And so what happens is Pharaoh takes Sarah in as his wife, and God punishes Pharaoh and his nation. And somehow Pharaoh figures it out that it's God, or at least a God, because the Egyptians believed in many gods. They probably assumed it was one of the gods, not the only God, Yahweh, or Jehovah as we call him. So Pharaoh then lets them go once he realizes what happens. That's chapter 12. So now let's go read chapter 13. So Abram went up to Egypt, he and his wife and all they had, and Lot with him into the Negev. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and gold, and he journeyed on from there, from the Negev, as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been in the beginning, between Baal and El. So he basically returns back to Bethel and El, where he had placed a tent before he went to Egypt, to the place where they had made an altar at first. Now there Abram called upon the name of the Lord, and Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At the time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. So basically, they go back to that same spot, like I said. Then Abram calls upon the name of the Lord. So he basically calls out to God for instructions. And the next thing you know, you find out that the land isn't big enough for both the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and all of them, and Lot's household and Abram's household. So Lot's household, his servants, and Abram's servants basically get in an argument over land and how to take care of their animals. So in verse 8 it says, Then Abram said to Lot, Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go right. If you take the right hand, then I will go left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zorah. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose him for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tents as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So basically, Abram says to Lot, you decide if you want to go to the east. Well, it says left, but I'm assuming it's east and west. If you want to go to the left, then I'll go to the right. But if you want to go to the right, then I'll go to the left. So Abram let Lot decide which direction he could go in, and Abram would go the opposite direction, which is very humbling. So you see, there is some contracts where Abram does have faith. He knows that God is going to lead him to where he's supposed to go. So it's, in a sense, he's asking Lot to make a determination, and where Lot goes will determine where Abram goes, which is going to be the direction that God's leading it. Lot sees the valley of Zorah as beautiful. The rivers were flowing, and it takes them all the way to Sodom. If you're familiar with Sodom and Gomorrah, which we'll be getting into soon, it's not in the next chapter. I believe it's a couple chapters from now. We'll talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's where Lot takes his household, and Abram goes the other direction. Okay, that's verse 14. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land that you see I will give to you, and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. So basically, after they separated, God told him, look across the entire world, look to the east, look to the west, look to the north, look to the south, and said, this entire land will be yours, and your offspring will be beyond measure, so it'll be like the dust particles of the world. So even today, if you're a follower of Jesus, we are considered a descendant of Abraham, or Abram at this time, but later it'll be Abraham, like I said. So Abram looks across and sees how big this land is. He built a tent there, and which is near Mamre, or Hebron, and he built an altar to the Lord. And again, altar to the Lord meant because he was offering some of his sacrifices to the Lord as a pleasing aroma to God. So that'll take us through chapters 12 and 13. I know the last one I did was 10 and 11. I'm not sure if I'll do 2 chapters at a time, but a lot of this is historical, so there's a lot of history in it. There's not as much applicable stuff in the sense of things that'll help us today grow, but there is some, and I think the history does help set up the stage for things that are going to happen, and so it's important to read it all. Again, I didn't say this in the beginning, I don't think, but I am most likely going to start also doing a playlist on Revelation, teaching through Revelation, because I think a lot of people want to learn about Revelation. I'm going to continue to do Genesis and do Revelation at the same time. Genesis is 50 chapters, Revelation is 21, so it may end about the same time. Not positive, we'll see how it works, but I'm interested in doing both, so this will include this video. Hopefully like it. Hopefully I download it right so you can actually leave comments. I did fix the other ones if I didn't tell you before. And next time we talk through this playlist, it'll be chapters 14 and possibly 15, depending on how much time it takes to go through each one. All right? So thank you, and God bless you.